Before we begin, I want to ask you something. What if I told you that fear is not just an emotion, but one of the most powerful control systems operating in the world? And what if the moment you truly remove fear from your nervous system, your external reality begins to change? Hi, beautiful souls. Welcome back to Empower Her Wellness, a space where we heal, we awaken, and reconnect with our true divine power. Today, we're going to talk about fear, how it, silently controls people's lives, and how you can reclaim your power from it. Fear is one of the most powerful forces used in the society to keep people disconnected from their true divine self and their highest potential. And you know what the saddest part is? Most people don't even realize that they're operating from fear. They believe it's concern or it's caution or even if it is responsibility. But very often it is simply conditioning. Most of us were programmed with fear from childhood, be it, the fear of failure, fear of what people will say, fear of the future, fear of not being safe, or even the fear of not having enough. Even our nervous systems, they grow up learning what, without learning what true safety feels like. Many people, they live their entire lives in a constant background state of anxiety without even noticing it. And when a nervous system is conditioned in fear, it becomes, very easy for someone to control. And if you're listening to this right now, and something inside you is saying, this feels familiar, this feels like me, then this message may be meant for you today. Unfortunately, I would say even in spiritual and healing spaces, fear can sometimes be used to keep people engaged. Earlier, many astrologers used to tell people frightening predictions about the future and then offer remedies. The message subtly becomes you are not safe unless you do this. And the person stays trapped in the loop of fear. But you know what true spirituality, true healing, and true empowerment is? They do not operate from fear. True spirituality, true healing, and true empowerment, I'm repeating again, do not operate from fear. They operate from trust, awareness, and inner power. A fearful mind is easier to control, but a calm and empowered mind becomes impossible to control. So when someone truly awakens to their spiritual power, something shifts. You stop living from fear. You also stop spreading fear. You no longer react to fear being projected onto you. Instead, there is this inherent trust in the divine, a deep knowing, within you that says the path ahead of you is protected. Whatever unfolds is, a part of your highest journey. And when your inner system stops operating from fear, your external reality begins to change as well. In my recent experience, I'll share an incident with you. So recently, me and my partner, we had visited Armenia for what was supposed to be like a short vacation. But now you must be knowing the geopolitical situation. So unexpectedly, the situation escalated and the flights got cancelled. It got cancelled the night before we were supposed to return back to Dubai. So people in Dubai and many parts of the world were panicking. Even our own parents, they were watching the news in India and were extremely worried. But interestingly, our experience was very different because internally we were not operating from fear. Our trip, remained very peaceful, luxurious, and relaxed. We continued working remotely, of course. We conducted group meditations online and then we continued supporting the collective during that time. But even when we returned, the flight was calm and safe. And the experience made me realize something very clearly. Your outer reality often reflects your inner frequency. And when you stop resonating with fear, life begins to respond differently. And something else happened after we returned to Dubai that made me, reflect even more deeply on this. So after we came back one night, there was an emergency alert message suddenly that went off on my phone. And if you've heard those alerts, the sound is extremely sharp and loud. The noise actually pierced straight through my head and it triggered a stress response in my body. I actually got a headache from it. For a moment, I could feel like my nervous system was reacting to it. That sudden rush of fear, that sudden sense of alarm. But, immediately I gathered myself. Instead of letting that fear take over me, I just paused. I grounded myself. I calmed my breath and I consciously worked through that fear in my body. And I reminded myself that I'm safe. And something very interesting happened the next day. The very next day, in fact, the Dubai government actually changed the alert tone that was used for night alerts. The sound became softer and far less jarring. And that moment made me reflect on something very deeply. When our inner state shifts, our outer reality often begins to shift as well. Sometimes in ways that are very subtle, but they remind you how powerful your internal frequency truly is. I want to say this. Fear is one of the most commonly used control frequencies in the society. Sometimes, uh, a lot of people, they present it as concern, sometimes as, they warn you, like, we're trying to say this as for your protection, or sometimes we're trying to advise you. But remember, very often it is simply a way to influence your decisions. When you constantly consume fear, be it through social media or conversations or even spiritual narratives, your nervous system stays trapped in survival mode. And remember, survival mode blocks creativity, intuition, and even divine connection. So, my message to you today is this: start removing fear from your system. I know this doesn't happen overnight. Fear lives in the nervous system, it lives in the body, it lives in the old memories and conditioning. But you can begin taking small steps. Stabilize your nervous system, invest in your healing, do the inner work. Because the moment you start healing fear, you start reclaiming your power. And if you're someone who feels that fear has been sitting in your body for a long time, in your nervous system, in your decisions, and in the way you live your life, please know that you don't have to navigate the journey alone. Healing fear is a process. And sometimes having the right guidance can make a huge difference. If you feel called to go deeper into your healing journey, you can reach out to me for a one-on-one healing session and an empowerment session where we, work on stabilizing the nervous system, releasing the stored fear, and reconnecting you with your inner power. You can find the details in the description below. And if this message resonates with you, take a moment to subscribe to this channel because here we talk about healing, feminine empowerment, and reconnecting with your true divine self. I would also love to hear from you. What is that one fear you're currently working on releasing? Share it in the comments below. Remember, you were never meant to live in fear. You were never meant to live, in anxiety. You were meant to live in trust, power, and divine connection. And when fear leaves your system, something beautiful happens. Your life begins to align with your true potential. So today, I invite you to choose courage over fear, choose trust over anxiety, and choose your divine self over the conditioning of the world. If this message resonated with you, share it with someone who may need to hear it today. And if you're on the healing journey, I'm sending you so much love and strength. This is Suchi signing off. Until next time. Bye bye.